Welcome to this edition of Reporters, the magazine that showcases the best stories from around the world from our reporters. This week we take you to one of the most dangerous places on earth, Mogadishu. The Somali capital is fast becoming a ghost town, destroyed by 16 years of civil war and further scarred by recent fighting between insurgents and Ethiopian-backed forces of the transitional government. The United Nations says nearly two-thirds of the capital's residents have fled, calling the crisis Africa's worst humanitarian disaster. Where France24, Franck Berruyer takes us inside Mogadishu.
The Medina Hospital in Mogadishu. Abdel Karim is 20 years old. He's been wounded by a mortar shell. A last gasp as life departs his body. All the men of the family are here. His brother starts crying. Some begin to recite the prayers for the dead. His pulse has stopped. The doctors couldn't save him.
No, he's already died.
He's dead?
He just died, yeah.
Just now?
Just now.
The men organize themselves. Few words are spoken. The sheet is used as a shroud. No time is wasted. Muslim tradition requires that the deceased are buried as soon as possible. In Mogadishu, people live with the dead. This day has been one of the bloodiest in weeks. Gunshots in the streets of the capital. This time it's to facilitate the journey of one of the town's officials. In Mogadishu, Kalashnikovs have replaced whistles. We leave in a convoy to reach the northern area of the town. That's where the heaviest fighting has been taking place. Our escort is made up of a dozen men. There is a pickup with a machine gun. Our guide is a young man in charge of security at the town hall. A year ago, in this same street, he survived an attack, but his father, who was in the vehicle with him, was killed by the bomb explosion. Nowadays, it's the allies of the transition government who occupy this area. On every street corner, Ethiopian soldiers stand guard. Our guides advise us not to film. Ethiopian soldiers are known to be trigger-happy. Apart from the military presence, this part of town is deserted. The buildings and streets still bear the marks of the fighting. Ethiopians emptied this area with heavy weapons and tanks. We head towards the south, the Bakara market. That's where US soldiers suffered the most casualties 16 years ago. And that's where today the insurgents are leading a new fight. The Shababs rule this maze of small streets. Shabab means youth in Arabic. It's the name of the groups of fighters that are harassing the government. Hidden amongst the population, the Shababs are never far away.
There are Shababs there, it's dangerous.
The soldiers in our escort are on constant alert.
She said there's some Shababs here. Dangerous? Dangerous area. This place.
The police station was again attacked yesterday, and the officers have left the area. Our guards don't want to stay here any longer. They tell us with a smile not to hang around. We now go to the other Mogadishu, even more south, near the port and the airport. It's the capital's most peaceful district. Many have taken refuge here, in these dunes by the ocean. Families who fled the fighting now live in these former fishermen's cabins, mere corrugated iron shelters. But at least here they are far away from the gunshots and bombings.
Yesterday I went to have a look at my house, but the whole area is occupied by Ethiopian soldiers. I couldn't get close to it. There was a grenade explosion. I came back here. It's impossible to return to our old homes. I've been here for 2 months. In 16 years of civil war, I've never once left my house. It's the first time. But I can't go back to my area. It's occupied by Ethiopians.
Like most residents, these women view the Ethiopians as an occupation force.
I left my house because of the fighting. I was living with my mother. We both left. But here I couldn't find a place for her. There aren't enough houses, but at least it's calm. There are no gunshots.
The women say their husbands are at work. In these homes, there are no men.
The day I decided to leave my area near the pasta factory, there was heavy fighting, bombings. I took everything I could and I fled. Since then I haven't gone back. I'm too scared. I left everything in my house. I thank God that I'm still alive.
The authorities say we could go back home, but when I got back to my house, there was nothing there. It had been destroyed, looted. Only a few clothes remained.
To find most of Mogadishu's residents who've fled the capital, you have to drive some 10 kilometers away from the town centre. Huts everywhere, a tent city. These families settled here several weeks ago. They ensure their own security. The land belongs to businessmen. 5,000 people live in this camp. 30,000 more are settled nearby. This woman fled with her 3 children. This tarpaulin is now her only home.
It's hard living here. Many of our men, our brothers, our husbands have been killed in Mogadishu. The Ethiopians are committing a genocide against our people. They're torturing men and children. They looted our houses.
In this makeshift camp, there are mostly women and children, and elderly men. Shopkeepers look after the water distribution. Just like in a village, small shops have opened. The camp already has a market. There is no looming humanitarian crisis, but these people will not leave anytime soon.
We won't return to our homes until security is restored. This tent village has become one of Mogadishu's new districts.
Noon. The heat is overwhelming. More soldiers have arrived to bolster our escort. Some are very young. Their only uniform is their Kalashnikov. Their eyes are starting to shine. Noon is also when they start chewing cats. The young soldiers find it hard to talk. Cat is a strong, exhilarating drug, an anesthetic that also excites you, a natural amphetamine. It makes the soldiers happy and unpredictable. We have to stop as our pickup has burst a tire. In front of the camera, the young men strike a pose. The drugs are producing their effect. On their mobile phone, they show us porn videos. Child soldiers' sense of humour stoned on cat. Our guards have never known peace. Most weren't born when the war started in their country. The stop lasts forever. The young soldiers take position on the remains of tanks. Back in the centre of Mogadishu, the road is cut off. This time because a bus got caught on an electric cable. In the capital, life resembles these electric poles. Anarchy everywhere. For years there has been no electricity in town. The power is provided by generators. Here nothing works normally. You have to be resourceful. At every crossing, men in arms. They control the town. Attacks have been on the increase, and everyone is considered suspicious, especially young men. The militias of former warlords have been replaced by fighters in uniforms. These troops couldn't control Mogadishu, without the support of the Ethiopian army. We head for the capital's old city centre. There is nothing left of the former Italian colonial district. Until the 1980s, it was the city's richest area, with hotels, embassies and nightclubs. Now all is in ruins. By the seafront stood the town's most elegant buildings. The families of fishermen came to live in these destroyed lodgings several years ago and haven't left since.
We live in these ruins. Sometimes they fall on our heads. It's dangerous, but at least we're safe here. We're far away from the fighting. We want peace.
Mogadishu's population has been abandoned. Half the town has been destroyed over the last 16 years of civil war. The government is made up of clans, and former warlords hold the economy. Meanwhile, the rest of the population tries to survive. The end of the day. Women collect dried brambles, firewood needed for cooking.
The situation is very bad. Before we had money, we could buy charcoal to cook. But today we have to collect these roots. No money, no work, nowhere to go, but at least here it's safe. But all around it's very dangerous.
Every evening the women come here to pick up dry sticks. Hours of work simply to heat their dishes. Forced to live like their ancestors. In Mogadishu, weeds have grown among the ruins. The capital's main square is used as a football pitch. The town's only distraction. Nowadays, the youth have all the time in the world to play.
We used to work in Bukhara market before. Now it's closed, we don't have any work. The problem is the fighting. We can't live without money. We can't survive like this. It's just not possible. All the prices have shot up, and we don't earn any money.
Among this chaos, a rare building site. The former Arch of Triumph, constructed by the Italians, is being restored. The mason spends his days filling in the bullet holes. The government is paying for the renovation. Here, few believe that life will improve. Bashir only started working again a few weeks ago, but he still hasn't been paid.
Because of the war, for 16 years my country didn't have policemen in the streets. I'm very happy today to be able to control the traffic in Mogadishu.
At this crossroad, where only a few ancient vehicles drive by, he hopes for a rosier future.
You see, today there isn't much traffic, but if peace returns here, there'll be many people here in the city centre.
For the moment, the people of Mogadishu try to survive. They only have one dream: to live an ordinary life.
Well, joining me in the studio now is the reporter behind that report, Franck Berruyer. Franck, what's life like for the people of Mogadishu? It's obviously a very, very difficult place to live. How are they coping?
It's quite an incredible place because, as you said in your preamble, this city is almost down to the ground. The buildings have suffered a lot, but at the same time, the people living in the city live almost normally, even if they're survived. Just to give you an example, the port is actually active. Boats and ships are coming in. There are bags of sugar being unloaded. There are bi-weekly flights coming in for Nairobi. And to give you another example, there are 3 different cell phone networks that are operational. So all of the people survive, even if there's no electricity. People have to make do. There's no water. They have to make do. They eat fish or camel's meat, mangoes, bananas. And all the people who still live there are survivors.
This Africa's worst humanitarian crisis. What did you see when you were there?
What is sure is that many people have fled the city. To give you an example, I was in Mogadishu in March of last year, and quite obviously there are far fewer people in the city. As soon as you move out of the city, only 10 kilometers out of the city, you find shanty towns of people, displaced people, living under tents. This is an example of a village of 30,000 people, displaced people. We can't really say it's a humanitarian crisis because these people survive. Clans have organized life. There are no doctors, no medicine, no water, but there's no major humanitarian
crisis, a city that's been destroyed. What do you think the future holds? What can be done?
It's very difficult to say what is going to happen in the days to come or the weeks to come. The insurgents are still ever present. There's fighting every day. There have been problems of looting in Mogadishu over the past few days, looting by the military. And we're expecting a buffer military force of the white helmets of the African Union coming from Burundi. They might be able to separate the fighters. What is sure is that the people will not be able to return to Mogadishu.
Thank you very much for joining us for this edition of Reporters. Well, that's it for this edition of Reporters. And remember, you can watch this and every edition of Reporters on our website. Just go to www.france24.com and click the Reporters picture at the bottom of the homepage. Or if you have an iPod and want to watch us on the move, click Podcasts to get the show every week. That's it for now. We'll be back next week with another report from our international correspondents.